Hi everybody, my name is Jessie and today I'm just doing a personal video recapping my third trimester. I'm not obviously through it yet. I haven't hit my due date or given birth yet. I'm just getting close to 37 weeks pregnant now. 40 weeks is considered like, well, 37 weeks is technically considered full term, but like if you have the baby, they're not premature, but 40 weeks is like the kind of standard. So I'm getting I'm less than a month away from my due date. And I'll probably post this video like day of or next day. So yeah, I'm in real time almost 3 weeks, just a little over 3 weeks away from my due date. So I just wanted to give you an update. I figured I would do it now rather than wait till I'm like super close. So yeah, I'll just kind of touch on like how I've been emotionally and kind of stuff I've been focusing on, and then I'll go over like a list of, if you're interested, just like kind of like body stuff and symptoms. There's a lot of just like personal, like funny body symptoms and stuff. So if you're interested in that, feel free to watch it. Yeah, emotionally, I feel like I'm doing pretty well. The first trimester with both of my pregnancies was always the hardest for me because of the nausea, and I just feel like the hormones were just the most affecting me most in my first trimester. And when I say first, I really mean it kind of bled into the second trimester a few weeks too. So really like 16, 17 weeks is when I started to feel better. And then the second trimester, it's really true. They call it like the honeymoon phase, and it kind of is because you're not, well, at least I was not feeling so awful and nauseous, and also not quite as exhausted. Oh, I gotta make a note on that actually, the exhaustion. But you're also not huge yet in the second trimester. But I did get, and I talked about this in my second trimester video, I did get much bigger, much faster. This is my second pregnancy, and that's pretty typical for your belly to just grow and pop out much sooner. So I did feel bigger, faster, but obviously I'm even bigger now that I'm so close to birth. So yeah, but emotionally I am feeling pretty good. And I remember with my last pregnancy, I felt emotionally better after I made it through the, 17, 18 weeks. And I actually remember with my first pregnancy, like the last like week or two, I really started to feel a little bit more like my normal self. Like, I don't know, something maybe was shifting hormonally, because I remember I had an interest in actually like looking at perfumes, and I had literally had no interest in that my entire pregnancy. So I was like, something's shifting, because like, yeah, I'm not feeling quite as because like with my last pregnancy I had a little bit of nausea all the way through. This one, I guess I'm probably a little more microscopically nauseous now than if I weren't pregnant, but it's very, very minimal, which is great. So yeah, emotionally I've been good. Physically, like, yeah, I've definitely had some physical stuff that's like mostly totally normal, which I'll get into later. That just, pregnancies, it's just a lot. You're carrying another human and all of just the changes that go along with it. So physically it's been like a little bit rough. But yeah, I've been really trying to get ready for baby, which is so much easier second time around, especially because we're having another girl. And so like clothing wise, we didn't need to buy any new clothes. Not saying that I didn't buy a few new clothes, and not saying that people didn't gift us a few new clothes, but we didn't need to buy any clothes. So that was all easy. And then like, the plan is really the same for the second baby. So like all the items that we had for our first baby, we were just planning on using for our second baby. And so I've got all the breastfeeding stuff I need. I've got like baby carriers, really the main things that we needed to buy were like car seats and a double stroller and diapers. Like obviously a bunch of diapers we're gonna need to keep buying. But yeah, so that was all very easy. And then just emotionally, like it's really nice going into this having the second baby, not having anxiety so much about like the becoming a new parent. Like obviously I'm going to be a parent to a new child, and that's, this child's probably going to be different in some ways, at least from my current daughter. But I'm not really nervous about that part. Whereas before I had my first daughter, I was just like, oh my God, like, I've never been a parent before, like, the excitement, but also like nerves around that, and your whole life changing is just not there to the same degree for my husband as well. Although he never like tends to be like an overtly anxious person to begin with, but he knew his whole life was going to change, and he knows it's going to change again, but it's not going to change as much with the second child. I feel like it's just a different adjustment. So that's a relief. So really my main concerns are, I guess, just around like the birth, the labor and the birth. I've talked about on my channel the birth of my first daughter, and that was really, really difficult for me. And I genuinely feel like this second labor experience is hopefully, I genuinely expect it to be a little bit easier. I don't know if easier is the right word, but I genuinely expect it to be a little bit less long, because my first labor was like 53 hours, and I don't expect it to be that long. It could be, but I don't expect it. I also just expect it to somehow, in some way, hopefully be a little easier for me. And again, it could not be, it could be worse, who knows? Or I might wind up needing to have like a C-section or something, which of course there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just not what I want. I don't want to have to have a major surgery, concurrent with the birth of my child. That's not something that I've ever wanted. So, I know there's all the ways that it could go, and it could, again, be like a really difficult process perhaps. But it's not what I'm genuinely expecting. But it's funny because I say this, and like, I genuinely, for the birth of my first daughter, I did not expect it to be as difficult and like traumatic for me as it was either. I knew, like, I went into it thinking like, yeah, this is going to be a lot. Like, this is going to be intense. Like, it's not going to be a cakewalk. I know apparently some women seem to have labors that they call nearly pain-free, and maybe even blissful or supernatural, or just like really positive. But I didn't necessarily expect that was going to be my experience. And yeah, I just thought it was going to be like a really big endeavor, but I didn't think I was going to be so shaken physically and emotionally, and I didn't think that I was going to feel like in agony for hours, and just that, yeah, that it shook me to my core as a single event pretty much more than anything I'd ever been through before. I had one really serious episode of pain when I was 17 because my oviduct died inside of me and was probably just hanging out in there dead for a while, and wound up causing excruciating pain for probably about 12 hours before I went into surgery and had it removed. So that was another time that I would say was similar, with just like extreme pain that was so horrible, causing me to throw up and just making me feel like I just couldn't cope kind of pain. And I'm someone who's good with pain, by the way. I rarely ever take pain meds when I have headaches or cramps or things like that. Like, I'm good with pain, I think, compared to a lot of people. So, yeah, that what happened to me when I was 17, and then the birth of my child was definitely the most pain and intensity I've ever experienced as a human. And the birth, I feel like, was in a sense even bigger than what happened when I was 17 because it was so long, it was so prolonged. It got more intense with time, of course, but the whole event of it was very much intense. So I'm definitely a little nervous going into this birth experience again. Just with that being my first one, but I don't feel like it's causing me to really do anything much different than I did the first time. I know that sounds kind of like, well, why not? But I guess what I mean is like I wasn't left like so scared and traumatized from my birth experience that I'm like, oh my God, like my plan is to absolutely avoid at all costs having that happen again. I'm totally open to doing whatever I need to manage pain or whatever else, but it's not like I'm going and just like I'm going to do that immediately. Because even though like the experience of like the pain and the intensity was so hard, I also don't like regret it, or I don't feel like that was a mistake that it happened that way. Like I think in many ways it transformed me. So well, I'm not looking forward to that if that happens kind of that way again. I'm not like negative towards it, and I'll just have to see how I feel in the moment. Like, how much can I bear something? How long can I bear something if that's how it feels again? But of course, it might genuinely feel different. Again, I'm not expecting that the birth is just going to be easy breezy. I guess that could happen. Like, I think that's very rare, but I guess some women have genuinely pretty easy birth experiences. I think it's very rare. I would love it if that happened to me. I would love to not experience all those sensations as pain. But, I'm not going to like blame myself if that's again not the experience that I have, as much as I might want it and hope that I could have like a really like beautiful, positive, blissful kind of birth. I'm not going to blame myself if it doesn't happen that way. So yeah, I can't remember. I don't think I mentioned this. Yeah, I did not mention this in the second trimester recap video because it actually had not, I don't think it had come up yet. I think it was around like 31 weeks. I was at my chiropractor's office and I met, well, I didn't really meet her, but I just was having small talk with a woman in the waiting room and was like, oh, how many weeks are you? She was like a week ahead of me. She was like 32 weeks. And she's like, oh yeah, I'm giving birth at this birthing center, down the road. What about you? And I was like, oh, I'm just planning on giving birth at the hospital. But something about that conversation made me think, I wonder if that birthing center does take my insurance. And so I looked and they did take my insurance, which had just not really occurred to me. I was just planning on doing a hospital birth purely for financial reasons, because I tried to do a home birth with the birth of my first daughter, and we wound up transferring to the hospital. And I also would be open to doing a home birth again, but the reason that I have chosen not to is because just the financial aspect. Like, you pay out of pocket for a home birth, and if you wind up transferring to the hospital, then you might also have you have to pay for that home birth, and then you might also have hospital expenses and all of this. So I was just like, okay, that's just going to simplify it for me. Because like I said, with my first birth experience, I really didn't anticipate that I was going to transfer to the hospital. I really didn't anticipate that it was going to be so intense for me. I thought it was going to be a lot, but I thought I would have a baby at home and that I wouldn't be left like raw and ragged from it. So anyway, I found out that the birthing center, one of the in like my area, does accept my insurance. So immediately I decided to like book a consult with them and wound up switching my care to them. just because, and I had a really good experience at the hospital. Like, it's gonna make me tear up again just thinking about it. But like, I'm not like a huge like mainstream medical person. If you've watched any of my other videos, like, you've probably seen me talk about like natural health stuff and whatever. So I'm not like a huge mainstream medical person. I'm not anti-mainstream medicine either, and there's times where they're obviously like so important, but in many cases I try to do things a little bit more alternatively, a little bit more naturally when I can. That's why I chose to do a home birth, you know. But I was so grateful to transfer to the hospital when I did, and like to be able to have those like interventions that I had, like the epidural and all of that. Like, so grateful. So I had a really good experience at the hospital because I needed, like, I felt like I needed them when I got to that point in labor. I was like, oh my god, this is like a very obvious choice for me now, because I feel like I can't handle where I'm at. But that being said, I still, you know, with this, even though the hospital provided me so much comfort with the second birth coming up, I'm just hoping that I maybe won't get to that point where I feel like I need that, and I'm really truly feel more comfortable like birthing in a more chill environment. Again, there's nothing wrong with the hospital, but it's not really chill, not for me at least. Like, you know, especially the hospital room that I birthed in, they just didn't have, like, it wasn't set up for anything extra. There was nowhere to walk around. They didn't, obviously, this is not common, but some hospitals might have like a labor tub, like a birthing tub. That's probably extremely rare. They didn't have that. It was just a small room, so you're kind of just like stuck on the like hospital bed. And there's other things about hospital births that are sometimes just not things that I would want. Like, if they want you to be continuously monitored, you have to like wear certain things so you can't really get in certain positions and all of this. So a home birth or a birthing center birth opens up a little bit more options usually, and the space is often much more calming and inviting. Like, the birth center that I'm planning on giving birth at, it's, you know, I toured it, and it's very inviting, calming. It honestly looks like a bedroom for the most part. The birthing rooms, they look like bedrooms, but they have medical equipment, and they have a hot tub, a warm tub, you know, a birthing tub. So like, I definitely want that. But if I wind up, when I'm laboring there, for whatever reason, not being able to handle the labor, or there's a medical emergency, obviously I'll transfer to the hospital. So yeah, that's how I'm feeling about the birth, is just like, you know, I feel like a normal and healthy amount of anxiety, especially for what I experienced with my first labor. But like I said, it's not really caused me, I don't feel like the bigness or trauma, if you want to call it, of my first birth, I don't feel like it has like shaped me in a way where I'm like, I don't know how to say it. I don't feel like it's like warped me where I'm like scared to do the experience again, and I'm taking action from that place. Like, I am scared to do the experience again, but it's not affecting my choices and my you know, like, I don't feel like I'm being avoidant or anything like that, which, you know, to anybody who maybe is, like, that's totally valid too. I'm just saying, like, I'm still kind of going in with the same plan that I had the first time around, which is wanting to do things outside of the hospital, and knowing that is probably gonna, you know, that I'm not gonna have access to pain management at a birthing center. And so just knowing that that's the reality, and if I can't manage the pain, I'll transfer to the hospital. Okay, I think that's everything I want to say. Stay tuned, because at the end of this, I'll get to something related to the birthing center that's giving me actually quite a bit of anxiety right now. But I'll just go over briefly a list of like physical symptoms. So if you're not interested in this, or you might think it's weird, you can stop watching now. But anyway, I mentioned earlier that in the first trimester, I was, of both pregnancies, I was like a lot more tired. Definitely true. And that really even continued on into the second trimester. One thing that really helped me with that, and I'm not recommending this, and this is something you should talk with your provider about if you do want to do it, but what really helped me, because I had like somewhat low thyroid levels, like not like clinical, but like subclinically low thyroid levels. And thyroid hormone regulates a bunch of things, but one thing, if it's low, you feel fatigued. And it's normal in pregnancy for your thyroid levels to get lower, because I think the baby's also sharing your thyroid hormones. So, yeah. That for a lot of women, I think, is part of the fatigue. It's probably other things too. But anyway, I was just like, I think this went into like my second trimester, where I was just like getting so tired, especially in the afternoons. Like I just was like at a loss for energy. So what really helped me with that personally is I bought thyroid glandulars. I think that's what they're called, thyroid glandulars. And some people might think this is really gross, but I don't. But it is essentially the actual thyroid gland, which is right here. It is the actual thyroid gland of usually cows, but you can also, it could also be from pigs. So bovine or porcine thyroid gland, desiccated, like dried and encapsulated. And so I don't believe it actually has, it shouldn't, according to my research, actually have like thyroid hormones in it, or if it does, it's like a very small amount. But it's essentially all of the parts of the gland. So, you know, there's just whatever the gland is made up of, it's like you're taking that in, and so kind of the idea is it helps strengthen your gland. It's like supports like, and that's kind of what glandular therapy is. Because you can do other glands, like you can get adrenal glandulars, which is the desiccated adrenal glands of like a cow, for example. And again, I know some people think this is like really gross, but it's like if you eat animal meat, I just personally, I don't really see the difference between eating an animal's muscle meat versus eating another part of their body. I know it might sound more gross, but it's not really logically any different. And cultures around the world, like indigenous cultures, forever did not just eat muscle meat. They would eat like the liver and the kidneys and other organs and glands, I believe, as well. So the thyroid glandulars really helped me, and honestly, I only took a small amount. I really did not need to take that much. I've been taking about 2 capsules a week consistently, and that's been enough to like feel markedly less exhausted in the afternoon consistently for a few months now. And apparently my thyroid levels are back to normal, because I just had labs a couple days ago. So I don't know if it's all because of the glandulars, but I'm feeling so much better. Okay, one thing that I've really been struggling with is just like back pain. And I can't remember if I mentioned this in another video, but ever since I had my daughter, my first daughter, starting about 3 or 4 months after that, I started noticing pain in my lower back, like tailbone area, like as like the lowest of your back, tailbone area pain. And I thought it was like it just seemed like tailbone pain, so I kind of thought of it as like a bone thing. And I would feel it mostly when I was sitting upright, particularly in like a hard chair that didn't have a lot of cushion. And I sit for work, and so working was like, ugh, you know. And so that's been happening for months now, over a year, probably like a year and 4 months that I've been experiencing that, and that's just continued through this pregnancy. It actually hasn't been like horrible in the recent months. It's probably been worse in months before recent months, but that's been hard. And then About like 1 to 2 months ago, I developed a recurrent pain in like the thoracic area of my back. And so that won't go away, and I don't know why. So I've just been having back pain, like mid back pain and lower back pain, and it's not going away. And I've seen a massage. I've been doing chiropractic. That really hasn't helped at all with it, which I was bummed. And which leads me to believe that it's not so much like a bone or alignment thing, or not fully at least. I've also seen a massage therapist a handful of times, and that has helped the most with the pain, but it doesn't make it go away. It's kind of like it helps relieve the pain for a few days and then it kind of sets back in. So that's a bummer. I try to like massage the areas a little myself or get my husband to massage it, and then I've like bought like a massage gun recently, as well as like a cupping device, like you can put those like suction-y cups and they kind of bring out circulation and can apparently help. So that's been not great, and I'm like, I keep joking, I'm hoping that like with this next birth that somehow my tailbone will get reset from the whole experience. But who knows, maybe it'll feel worse, maybe it'll feel the same once the birth is over and my body's kind of getting back on track. I don't know, but obviously if it doesn't get better, I'm gonna have to readdress it. I'm hopeful that this thoracic back pain might go away, and that maybe that's just related to like my big old belly and just weighing more and everything. So back pain. Also, my breasts are so much bigger. Like, that's just normal in pregnancy. Your breasts grow like crazy. Like, I forgot how much that was the case. Like, that happened with the first pregnancy where my breasts grew so much, and I was like, oh my god. And then it's like I forgot about it, and it happened again starting in the first trimester of this pregnancy. I was like, oh my god, yeah, they're already growing so much. But they shrink back down again, in the months after birth. Even though I was breastfeeding my daughter up until a year, they still shrunk back down quite a bit, which for me I prefer, because I don't have like small breasts to begin with. They're not huge, they could be bigger, but I don't want any more than I already naturally have. So then I have this, I'm pretty sure this is a pregnancy symptom because I don't know what else to attribute it to. I have this like dermatitis. It's literally just like sometimes my skin flares up and gets itchy, and for me it's like mostly around like the area between my thighs, like where your thighs touch, and it was worse in the summer because I think the heat and humidity. But yeah, it's just like, it just flares up occasionally and it's just itchy. And I thought in the beginning, I was like, what is this? Is this some kind of like fungal? I was like, I think maybe it's a fungal rash. Like, so I tried a couple different fungal creams that did nothing. So I know it's not a fungal rash. I think it's common during pregnancy to have like skin reactions and kind of like pregnancy related dermatitis type things. So that's what my OB and then now midwife team think. So I'm hoping it'll just clear up after pregnancy, but it's weird. What else? Yeah, I've like, sleep has been hard because, well, one, I feel like my bladder is so sensitive, so I have to get up to pee multiple times throughout the night, even if it's literally just like a quarter cup of pee. So that's hard, and I feel like I'm kind of dehydrated because I don't like the sensation of having to pee all the time. And so I think if I was hydrating the way I should be, I would just constantly feel bladder pressure and constantly feel like I have to pee. So I don't know, not ideal. I'm still trying to hydrate though, but it's just And then also, yeah, my stomach is just like sensitive, particularly when I sleep. Like, I don't know, it just doesn't feel good. Kind of like hurts mildly. I don't know if that's typical, and I don't remember that being so much the case last pregnancy, but it just feels kind of sensitive, and there's like really no comfortable position for me to sleep. So okay, weight gain. I was up I was up 20 pounds by 30 weeks, and now I'm like almost 37 weeks, and I'm almost up like 30 pounds now. I would say I'm up like 29 pounds. Yeah, I've gained a lot of weight in the just last handful of weeks. I think it's more normal to gain more weight the farther you're in on pregnancy, because yeah, just your blood volume is really increasing, the baby's growing. It's probably not so much the baby, it's probably other things, but yeah, so I'm almost up 30 pounds right now. I anticipate by the time I give birth, I'll be up like 35 pounds or something like that, which is about what it was with my first pregnancy. I was probably up like 37 pounds by the time I gave birth, and I was 6 days late, but yeah, that was about what it was. It's probably going to be similar this time. Okay, then I've also been struggling with, and I think this was my first pregnancy too, but this whole pregnancy I've been struggling with like rhinitis, where my nose will just get drippy and itchy for seemingly no reason, and that's not normal outside of pregnancy for me. But I did find something that really has helped that. It's called a nasal red light therapy device. It's like little red lights, and you actually like put them up your nostrils, and you have red light therapy in your nose. And it has really helped. It has almost completely made the rhinitis go away. I feel like I'm just less stuffy in general. And it also kind of stopped my snoring, because I got the device just like a week or two after I had started snoring at night from the weight gain. And the snoring has pretty much stopped. I don't think it's happened in like a week or two now. And I've continued to gain weight, so theoretically I should be snoring more. That's what happened with my first pregnancy. I was snoring every night, and my husband was telling me about it. So yeah, that red light nasal therapy has been great for me. Apparently it helps also like decrease like colds or just stuffiness or allergy symptoms, things like that. Obviously this is just like my anecdotal experience, but it has been really helpful for me. So I do it 10 minutes every morning while I'm just getting ready. I stopped wearing my wedding ring, because probably a combination of like actual weight gain, not anything like crazy, but I've probably actually just gotten a little bit chunkier. But also too, like when you're pregnant, your blood volume really increases. So same thing with my feet, like my ankles look a little swollen, and like certain shoes are really tight, just because your blood volume increases. And yeah, so my wedding ring does not fit right now. What else? I've had some like cramping a few times, like 4 times now. I've had some like what feels kind of like period cramps. And it feels kind of like right around like the cervix area. And I don't remember that happening with my first pregnancy, except for like 2 days before labor. I had, I think, what you'd call almost like prodromal labor, where it's that like cramping sensation, kind of like really like contractions. And I had that kind of throughout the day, a few days before I actually went into real labor. This time, I don't know exactly what it is. Maybe it's like my cervix is like gradually starting to like dilate, because that can happen. That'd be amazing if by the time I actually went into labor, I was already like 3 or 4 centimeters dilated. Oh, that would be so great, because it took me, I swear, like 24 hours to get to like 4 centimeters dilated. 24 hours of labor that was painful and not easy, and not even active labor, Well, it kind of was, because like using the like contraction timer, I was having contractions that were like every 5 or 7 minutes for like a minute, like kind of significant, but I was only like 2 centimeters dilated, and you're just like, oh my god, this is gonna take forever. So I'm hoping that these like little cramps that I've been experiencing here and there are maybe like my cervix is like starting to thin out and dilate preemptively. That would be amazing. I also had this like shin splint. I don't know if you guys have ever had shin splints, but I've had this like shin splint that kind of just like has a stabbing pain just occasionally, maybe a couple times a day. I think it's just because I've gained weight. You know, I'm up like almost 30 pounds now. And so I think it's just like there's just more pressure on my leg on that area. I don't know. I've continued to stay pretty active. I play Dance Dance Revolution, which I think most people know what that is. Maybe not, but it's like a video game that you kind of dance and jump around to. And so I've been like actually really active with that, like seriously like moving a lot. So I've definitely been on my feet a lot, and I still walk most days. And so I think maybe my shins are just, that shin is just feeling it in particular. Okay, and then my belly button with my first pregnancy did not stick out, like it never stuck out. It was just kind of flat. This time around it's almost starting to stick out, but not in a serious way. So I was like pointing it out to my husband. I was like, look, it's kind of sticking out. So I don't know. By the end, maybe it'll actually be a little bit stuck out. And then lastly, and I referenced this earlier, like what has been giving me anxiety a lot the last 2 days, because this is new information, is I had my labs done just like a few days back, and it turns out I'm mildly anemic. My, what is it? Hemoglobin? I don't know the particular iron marker, but some level is a 10, which is considered mildly anemic for pregnancy. So it's not like awful, but the problem is that the birthing center that I'm going to birth at, they have a cut off where they don't allow you to birth at their birthing center if you are below a threshold, and the threshold is 10, which is where I'm at right now. And the reason they don't allow for that is because there's like more risk of hemorrhage or worse hemorrhage or something when you're anemic. And just, you know, it's just more liability. So I totally understand that. I respect that. But I'm anxious because I'm getting really close to birth, and I need to get my iron levels up so that I can hopefully birth there, because that's my birth plan. And obviously I could birth at the hospital, but like I don't want to change my whole birth plan right now. So I'm nervous, and I was like nervous about it, but I was like, okay, I'll get an iron infusion as well as take supplements, and that should definitely get me in the right range. But I tried to schedule an iron infusion, and they're booking like a month or so out, which like I'm gonna probably already have had my baby by then. And the birth center wants to retest my iron levels in 2 weeks. So I would need the iron infusion ideally like within the next week to really like see a difference. And I seemingly can't book it unless I find another place in the area. I might have to travel farther to get an iron infusion. So I'm looking into that, and I'm hoping maybe I can actually like get an iron infusion, but if not, I'm just left with iron supplementation. And I think I'm going to be really kind of stressed about that, because even if I'm like supplementing multiple iron pills a day, which is not easy for me because iron can make me nauseous, especially if you take it on an empty stomach, which you're supposed to take it on an empty stomach to get the best absorption. I feel nauseous just thinking about it, I swear, because my body knows that iron makes me feel nauseous. So I'm just like, ugh, just thinking about it. So I'm trying to take like 3 pills a day to like really get my iron up high, which would be like 600% of my like recommended daily value. Obviously you don't absorb all that, but like if you know 1 pill is like 200% of like the recommended daily value, I'm going to try to take like 3 pills to like really get my iron up fast, if I can keep them down. But yeah, I'm just nervous about that because it's not it's not quite as effective as like an iron infusion. It's going to take a little more time, and also your blood volume continues to really increase, especially in the third trimester. So even if I am up, even if I'm getting more iron, when my blood volume increases, it's going to dilute it. So I'm just worried that my iron levels might not improve, or they could potentially get even lower, in which case I wouldn't be able to birth at the birthing center. I don't know if I like stay at a 10, if they'll let me stay there. Hopefully I can get it up to like a 10.5 or something, and in which case I should be able to birth at the birthing centers. But anyway, it's definitely stressing me out because I don't know, like I know I can birth at the hospital and that's fine, but like I had like changed my plan and was excited about this plan, and like now I'm like, oh god. So anyway, that's like the newest development that's stressing me out, and obviously at some point I will do a video talking about the birth and you'll figure out how this story ended with the anemia piece. And who knows, maybe I birth at the birth center and wind up transferring to the hospital anyway. Like, I don't know, but yeah, I think that's all that I wanted to say about this third trimester recap. I feel like this was kind of a long video, so thanks for listening if any of you listened to the end. And yeah, I'm sending you all peace, love, beauty, and harmony, and I'll catch you all again in another personal video at some point. Okay, bye.